Hello, everyone. My name is Brianne Lazinski, and I am brilliant. I have many gifts, and this does not come from arrogance. This comes from confidence, and it has taken a long time to get here. Today, I am going to talk about the new moon in Scorpio, and I'm also seeing that it is a perfect opportunity for me to do what I've put in the too hard basket a few too many times. Pluto and Capricorn square the notes. And that is to bear a bit of my soul and let you in on how I do the work that I am offering as a service to the world. So, if you don't already know, I am the creator of Soul's Compass Healing, where I offer a thing that I call support sessions, and it is incorporating evolutionary astrology, energy reading, and Akashic record readings into a therapeutic 90-minute session. I have a social work background, so I am grounded in real life. I have an appreciation for the fact that no one soul's evolutionary journey is better or worse than another. It is all as it is meant to be, and we are all learning what we need to learn. And I don't really like labeling myself because I find that they're too confining, but I do like to call myself a lady of communion. I commune with many things, and I have the gift of receiving and understanding the language of nature and symbols, and also the step 2 of that gift, which is interpreting all of that. So, without further ado, I will share with you a poem about this new moon in Scorpio. Incarnate, to become flesh, born from Mother Earth, she who sustains us, all the way down to the core of our shadow, that murky matter we carry with us everywhere we go, thereby sustaining us. What is this sustenance, this internal wisdom of the body, who in concert with the earth knows how to be alive and when to die, shedding flesh for the etheric body, the etheric robe is what I meant. Sustenance continues somewhere, somehow. Part 2. Eternal bloodlines, infinite memory bank, I come in the name of sustenance, asking why? Why am I here now, in this body, one ravenous desire leading to the next, a wellspring of once, with tendrils that run into the deep, carrying the secret answers to the question why? Will you dive in to find out? They ask. Okay. I am now going to shed some light on my approach to energy reading. Energy reading is 2 words that can mean lots of different things. So I hope that this clarifies it a bit. First of all, there are ethics involved. I do not read anyone's energy unless I have had their explicit permission to do so. On the intake form, when you're going through the booking process with on my website, there is a single question that asks if you would like this included in your session or not, and it is entirely up to you. Um, Also, in that intake form, there is questions which prompt the individual to identify the areas of life or dynamics that they would like to focus on or are seeking answers for or need help with, right? It is optimal to have one specific question, if we can narrow everything down to like one specific question for me to ask when I'm doing my energy reading. It is very helpful to be specific. Um, and why? And this is because a person's energy is expansive, and we want to stay true to what is most meaningful and helpful for the individual on their evolutionary journey. Right? Okay. Before the session or the meeting, I do the energy reading, and I have a look at the intake form. If the question requires some sifting, I might do so, but in a way that that gets more to the essence of what's going on and doesn't deviate from the integrity of what that person is asking for. Yeah, because it is super important that I'm staying true to the individual because they are the expert in their life. So the actual tune-in happens in 2 steps. Step 1 is receptivity. So I switch on all of my senses and I purely receive what is being communicated to me from spirit. And this is, or I should say, I always receive images, and I can receive other perceptions through my other senses as well. And the second part is after that has been closed, I can then move into the interpretation phase, which I may do a little bit of interpretive work on my own before I meet with the person, but the bulk of that remains for in the session because, as I said before, the person I'm working with is the expert in their own life. They know things that I don't. So, for example, a feather. A feather can mean a few core fundamental things, right? A feather can also mean something to me when I have my biases in place. And I need to be very discerning and checking those biases so that I am staying true to the integrity of what spirit is trying to communicate. And I may not know until I sit down and meet with that person that, like, whoa, feather, that's the day that, they might say, the day that my grandpa died, there was feathers everywhere. And now whenever I see a feather, I feel his presence. It's like, wow, cool. Like, I didn't know that, you know? Um, and so, yeah, that's it pretty much for the energy reading. Um, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. It also serves well in tandem with evolutionary astrology, um, because it can give us both a clear snapshot before we even sit down together about where the person is at in their evolutionary journey. What are the points that are really being highlighted can really be reflected in what I observe in reading the birth chart and the natal transits. Okay, so now, now we're gonna talk about the Akashic records. Here we go. Okay, so the Akashic records are A library containing detailed records of everything that ever was, is, and will be. So Indigenous cultures have had a deep understanding of this, and long before quantum physics has proven it to be a scientific fact, that every thought, emotion, action, inaction has a energetic blueprint embedded into reality. And this is what is stored in the Akashic records. So I use the Akashic records for healing with the intent to be able to live this present life more fully. Not to justify behavior that keeps a person stuck, because that's just going into victim mode and it's disempowering. I'm going to talk about that more later. So, I see the Akashic records as following the thread back home to the soul. Okay? So I want to use a analogy of, okay, so I was born and raised in the Canadian prairies, where it's an expansive land, huge winter storms can come in and it can just be a complete whiteout, can't see up from down, left from right. And so in the farming realm, especially in the olden days, there was this practice that, you still had to go and feed your animals and tend to your animals even though a storm might hit for a few days. So what was done was tying a string to the doorknob of the home, carrying that ball of string in one's hand, going tending to the animals, and then following that piece of string back to the doorknob, okay? So that in and of itself is a beautiful analogy of finding one's way back home, okay? It's about reintegrating fragmented aspects of the self, and helping to understand a bit more of who, what, why our evolutionary journey is the way it is, so that we can live with more purpose. Okay, so my next point is that discernment is required to determine when an Akashic record reading is appropriate and how the information is communicated. So we don't need to look too far into human history or the current state of affairs to bear witness to the levels of violence that is existing between humans. And so what comes up in an Akashic record reading when we're looking at past lives, should be specific. That's how I use Akashic records, is looking into the past lives. There can be deeply unsettling things come to the surface. And with my social work training and background and my continued study of trauma, I am skillful in avoiding re-traumatization. So I do also require that the person is stable mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Can they identify that they're stable? In my assessment, can I identify that they're stable? We come up with that decision together. So I only do Akashic Records readings for people whom I've met with at least once before, because it's very sensitive, this stuff, and it requires a lot of care and structures of safety for it to be done right. If it is not helpful for the soul's evolutionary journey at this time to be diving into past lives and getting more detailed information, then I will not do it. Again, my intent is to be helpful, what is meaningful for the person, what is pertinent to their evolutionary journey at this current juncture that we're meeting, right? So similar to the energy reading, how it can be an overload of information that could just go on for ages. Of course, we can appreciate that the Akashic Records is, of course, just that. And so it's really helpful to have the person I'm working with narrow down to a single question what it is that they would like more details about from past lives. So I can help with that process. It needs to be of value in the individual's present life. And also, I am not a psychic spy. So the question cannot be, I want to know about my ex's new girlfriend's past life and what she did to me. No. Like, the question needs to be about you. I'm doing the reading for you. So you need to frame the question in a way that is about you and not somebody else, because that's breaking ethics. So it can be something along the lines of like exploring that relational dynamic or something like that, right? Lastly, I am not a fortune teller. I do not read Akashic Records for predicting the future. Okay. I am going to talk more about that, so I'm going to leave that as is right now. Yeah. Okay. Now, oh yes. I want to talk about the moon conjunct Mars in Ceres in the sign of Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Sedna. That's what we have going on this amazing new moon. So the famous question of what do you want comes to mind. Do your deepest desires sustain you, nurture you? How? Uranus in Taurus retrograde. Some inward reflection of these questions may prove to be quite fruitful right now. I'd like to talk about Sedna. Sedna had the courage to ask herself what she wanted. To remain in the village where she was to be married off and fulfilling the societal gender role of her culture, or to follow her desire to go with Raven into the wild and learn how to live off the sustenance of the earth alone. The essence of this story speaks to how she had to let go of her desire to return to her community when life in the wild got wild. In so doing, she sank to the frigid depths of the ocean, where she birthed marine mammals who recognized her as their creator and called her by her name. The mammals, of course, went on to sustain the people of her home community. So, what is the message? That in following our desires, we open up doors of sustenance from the earth we walk upon. Also, that there is a point of no return. Desire transforms, something dies, and simultaneously something new is born. Creation is an alchemical act. I would like to also talk about the South Node being conjunct Pallas Athena in Libra, of course. Looking into the past with objective clarity is very alive right now. I think Pallas Athena has a lot to do with the Akashic Records, actually. She is a master of reading symbols and has access to the infinite records of everything that has, is, and ever will happen. Her brilliance really shines in the appropriate use of justice. So, for example, say someone discovers in a past life that they had lost all their money doing business with others, and so they use that as a justification to not enter into business with others in this life because, they just always got the short end of the stick, even though they really want to. That is becoming victim and being disempowered and using justification in a way that is going against the flow of evolutionary growth, which, happens. It's a thing and it's okay. It's okay to have it be a step on the journey, right? Another example, let's say someone discovers they were severely oppressed by a person in their present life. Someone discovers that they were severely oppressed in a past life by a person who is in their present life and pursues revenge in nasty ways, feeling justified being a pseudo god of karma, when in reality, failing to understand karma at all. The Akashic Records is not a karma bank that keeps score of karmic debts and karmic bonus points. It is the reality that we've all been oppressed and we've all been the oppressor. We have all been the perpetrator and we have all been the victim. We play these roles for one another in order to evolve. It's a harsh truth that when digested appropriately, alchemizes into a lot of compassion. This doesn't mean that we bypass the human experience of processing pain and oppression to hop, skip, and jump into forgiveness land. No, no, no. This is spiritual bypassing, and I am not here for it. It also doesn't mean that a person should be advised to or should stay in a situation or relationship that is abusive in order to learn a lesson. That is outright absurd insanity and is another way of bypassing humanness, creating injustice, and perpetuating the psychology of sadomasochism. Okay. What are we at? 23. Okay. So, my intent with all of my services is to keep our eye on the prize. Healing is an important part of the human journey, and it doesn't stop there. It is the ever spiraling launching pad to becoming more here, more human, and more alive. I am going to jump around a bit right now. Sorry for the confusion. I just want to speak a little bit more to the astrology of why I talked about the things that I talked about today, so that I'm providing a bit of context to the appropriateness of it being on this new moon. So I've talked before about Uranus being the memory bank of individuated consciousness of everything that has ever happened to a soul is collected in this etheric data bank, which is highly associated with Uranus. And Uranus is opposing this new moon, so it is a time where we can really see very clearly the long if we really want to, we can see very clearly to the depths of the soul. And my fellow Pluto and Scorpio generation folks mostly know what I'm talking about when I'm referring to going to the depths, you know, like it's a deep soul dive, you know, and I've never realized to this magnitude before how much I do swim in the deep end, and I'm learning how to come up for air. And one practical thing that we can glean from nature is that when one is coming up from the depths of the waters, one must be very careful and do it slowly and equalizing, right, as one rises to the surface, to take that breath again. And the same goes for when we are super hungry. It is not effective to eat a whole bunch of food really fast. That's going to make us feel sick. So there is, with Uranus and Taurus retrograde, it's just really highlighting to the fact that we may be feeling things that we cannot find the root of, you know, like that string on the doorknob in that prairie winter storm that I was talking about. We might just be following that string and not knowing, where is this taking me? What is this about? Where did this come from? You know, and it's about just as long as we're safe, learning how to relax in that, and how to be okay to want things. It is okay to have desires. It is human. It is a beautiful part of being human. And yeah, this new moon, just practice. I want. What do you want? I want fill in the blank. And just, we don't necessarily have to know the super, you know, depths of why that is, and, you know, its significance on our evolutionary journey and all of that, but we can, you know. This chart is showing us that if we want to see, we can see, but we don't have to. We can also have wants and trust that the earth will support us in those wants, that the earth will provide sustenance for us to go on living and desiring. Desire is as Jeffrey Wolf Green spoke about, it's the leading edge of the soul's evolution, right? We're following one desire after the next, and it's always leading us through this spiral and cycles of evolution. So yeah, a very potent time to be doing this work that I've spoken with you about today. I also want to talk about the moon being third quarter square Saturn. So this has to do with major shifts in how we view and interact with structures of our society, culture. this basically is required, this major shift, for us to make our desires known, for us to act upon our desires. You know, like me doing this video and opening up to you a little bit more about how I do energy reading and Akashic record reading is it's requiring me to shift the story that is in my psyche about revealing my gifts to people. And it's hard. And I'm doing it because I can do hard things, and so can you. Okay. I also want to just briefly say that Venus is trine Pluto and Sedna. This is a grand trine between Venus, Pluto, Sedna. Okay. So this is transformation of relationships through themes of loss, isolation, and rebirth. Okay. I feel like there was something else that I wanted to say. Maybe not. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay, thanks for being patient. I wanted to talk about a little bit about how I blend in all of these modalities, if you will. So evolutionary astrology, energy reading, I talked about how they can complement one another. And I now want to talk briefly about how evolutionary astrology can be complemented by Akashic Record past life readings. And so this is because I can look at a birth chart and meet with a person and get a pretty accurate general picture of the major themes of the past lives. You know, like evolutionary astrology does shine a light on that, and that's part of the reason why I love it so much. And there can be times when there is, usually when it's like a repetitious dynamic that is causing a person a lot of pain or hardship in their life, and there's just simply more details that that need to be uncovered in order for that healing to take place. And that's when diving into the Akashic records can be appropriate. And what else? Okay, this should be obvious, but I don't do Akashic record past life readings either without a person's explicit permission to do so. So the way that I work is very much about safety. There's another grand trine actually in this chart that I find really interesting for this new moon, and that is with the moon, Neptune, and the north node of Jupiter and Pluto. And it's, you know, a water trine, which really speaks to why am I bringing this up right now? Because it speaks about that we are leaning into safety and emotional intelligence as medicine for our relationships, for the collective, and for us as individuals. So safety is a super important thing to me. I co-create safe space with those that I work with. And it is a joy and an honor to be here on this planet doing this work right now. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have a amazing new moon where you are declaring all of your wants and desires. We'll see you next time.